What you do when life feels full, yet your soul feels empty? Why is it that even with all your striving, something still feels off, like a shadow following you into every room, even the bright ones? You've achieved, you've adjusted, you've played by the rules, but deep down there's a silent ache you can't shake, a hunger for meaning that no success has been able to satisfy. You've tried distraction, you've tried ambition, but nothing settles the storm. That ache, that void, it's not your weakness, it's your invitation. Because there is one spiritual truth so piercing, so unshakable, that when you truly grasp it, it shifts everything. It silences the noise, it breaks the illusion, it pulls you out of performance and into power. This truth is not trendy, it will not flatter you, but it will free you. And once it opens your eyes, you will never see life the same way again. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, what once confused you will make sense, and the burden you thought you had to carry, you'll realize it was never yours to bear. And once it opens your eyes, you will never see life the same way again. Stay with me, because by the end of this message, what once confused you will make sense, and the burden you thought you had to carry, you'll realize it was never yours to bear. You're not what you own, you're what you obey. Your life isn't shaped by your possessions, it's shaped by your hidden allegiances. You can have a house filled with gold, but if your heart bows to fear, you're still a servant. You can drive the finest car and wear the cleanest suit, but if your choices are guided by approval, you're not free. You're controlled. People spend their lives chasing things they think will define them: cars, status, followers, salaries. But the truth is, none of that ever truly defines a man. What defines him is what he bows to in secret. You don't become great by what you collect, you become great by what you obey when no one's watching. I remember sitting across from a man who had it all: wealth, prestige, global influence. He was the kind of man the world applauded, but as he spoke, his words were empty. His eyes looked lost, and halfway through the conversation, he whispered a confession: "I can't sleep. I don't know who I am anymore." He wasn't obeying truth. He was obeying fear, and fear had built him a throne, made of lies. The world doesn't ask you what you serve. It just keeps feeding you what to chase. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse slavery for ambition. The real battle in life isn't between success and failure. It's between truth and control. The moment you begin obeying the expectations of others, the unspoken rules of this world, you start losing your voice, your conviction, your soul. That's how silent obedience becomes a trap. You start living for things that were never meant to own you. But here's the twist. The very moment you step back and ask, "What am I truly obeying in this season?" clarity begins to rise. You start to see the invisible hand pulling your strings. You see how often your decisions were ruled by fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And when that awareness hits you, when you catch your own heart bowing before the wrong throne, you either collapse or you rise. The man who awakens in this moment doesn't need applause anymore. He doesn't need to prove himself, because he's no longer owned. He walks with power because his obedience is now aligned with principle, not pressure. You want freedom? Don't ask what you own, ask what owns you. You want peace? Don't chase comfort. Obey what strengthens you, even when it costs. The strongest men aren't those with empires. They are those who can say no to their own ego. The freest people in the world are not those with options. They are those who've chosen allegiance to what is true, no matter the consequence. So ask yourself, what am I serving with my time? What have I given quiet permission to lead me? Because the one you obey is the one who defines you. And until you choose differently, your life will never belong to you. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding themselves. They stay busy, distracted, always look outward. They read, they scroll, they hustle, not for growth, but to stay away from that one quiet question: who am I becoming? But life has a brutal honesty to it. It keeps bringing you back to the same broken mirror. And every time you look away, it waits. Until one day you crash, and the only voice left is your own. This isn't weakness. This is the invitation. And not everyone accepts. There comes a point in a man's life where he has to stand still, not to admire himself, but to investigate himself, not to boost his confidence, but to confront his condition. You start to see how much of your ambition was driven by insecurity, how many of your smiles were how many of your beliefs were borrowed, and that realization doesn't break you, it births you. I've met men who could run empires but couldn't sit in silence for 5 minutes. I've watched leaders lose everything not because they weren't skilled, but because they never confronted the wounded child still dictating their choices. Avoiding yourself doesn't protect you. It poisons you slowly. You begin living on autopilot, reacting instead of choosing, building instead of healing. And eventually, the cracks show in your relationships, your decisions, your peace. But the twist is this: the moment you choose to face yourself, honestly, painfully, nakedly, you discover something no applause could ever give you. You discover your power. Because no man who has wrestled with his own darkness comes out weak. He comes out whole. No man who has faced his deepest fears walks timid. He walks certain. Not perfect, but present. This is where real freedom begins. Not in the avoidance of pain, but in the confrontation of it. Not in pretending you've got it all together, but in knowing where you fall apart and deciding to rise anyway. It's not shameful to confront yourself. It's sacred. It's what separates the wise from the hollow, because only those who are willing to meet themselves become themselves. So if life keeps confronting you, stop resisting. That's not punishment. That's mercy. It's a call to awaken, because on the other side of that confrontation is the version of you you've been searching for. And until you meet him, nothing will ever truly satisfy you. Comfort is the enemy of clarity. You don't hear truth in a padded room, you hear it in the wilderness. Comfort keeps you warm, but it also keeps you blind. There's a strange deception that comfort brings. The more it surrounds you, the more you stop asking the deeper questions. You stop investigating your life. You stop listening to that quiet inner nudge that says, this is in it, there's more. Clarity rarely arrives when everything feels good. It comes when something shakes, when something breaks, when your routines no longer satisfy and your soul begins to ache. That ache isn't a problem. That ache is the doorway. It's discomfort pushing you to see again. There was a time when you were more alert, when you paid attention to the little things, when you questioned what others just accepted. But comfort numbed that edge. You started settling. You started rationalizing. And slowly your convictions turned into preferences. That's the challenge of modern life. We are surrounded by soft distractions, convenience, entertainment, instant affirmation. But the mind that's always entertained becomes too dull to discern. The spirit that's never stretched becomes too weak to lead. And the twist is, comfort doesn't feel like a trap until it's too late. You realize you've built a life that's smooth but shallow, predictable but powerless. You traded clarity for convenience, and now you're wondering why you feel lost. But this isn't the end. This is the invitation. Step away from comfort long enough to feel the silence. Let the unease speak. Let the questions rise. It will be uncomfortable, but it will also be holy, because clarity lives where comfort dies. Those who seek truth must first become uncomfortable with lies. Those who want vision must first leave the fog of ease behind. So don't curse discomfort, thank it. It's not your enemy. It's the voice calling you back to yourself. You were not made to fit in. You were designed to awaken. Stop adjusting your soul to survive. You were born to disturb the silence. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs people who have truly woken up. There's a pressure to conform, to blend in, to follow the pattern, to be accepted. But deep down, you've always known you weren't made to live like that. You've always felt the tension, that sense that you're walking through life half asleep. You see people around you doing the same things, speaking the same way, chasing the same rewards, but something in you resists. And that resistance is not rebellion, it's calling. It's your soul refusing to go numb. The challenge is this: awakening hurts. It separates you. It makes you question what everyone else is doing without question. And when you choose that path, you often walk it alone. You'll lose comfort. You might lose people, but you'll gain yourself. The twist, once you begin to awaken, you'll realize you were never truly living before. You were just existing, moving, performing, surviving, but not choosing, not fully being. Awakening is brutal, but it's beautiful. It strips away illusion. It gives you your voice back. And the impact is permanent. Once your eyes are open, you can't go back. You don't want to go back because you've touched something real. You've remembered who you are. You weren't made to blend in. You were designed to see, to speak, to disrupt the lie with the truth. So rise not to be seen, but to be awake. When you detach from the world loses power over you. The more you need from the world, the more it owns you. Freedom begins not with what you get, but with what you release. We live in a time where our value is measured in likes, followers, possessions, applause. From a young age, we're trained to seek validation from the outside. We shape our choices around what the world might reward. But what no one tells you is the world trades in chains. And the more you cling to its approval, the less you recognize your own voice. You don't have to be a slave to the system to be imprisoned by it. All it takes is one silent attachment, the belief that you need it to feel whole, that if you lose it, you lose yourself. It could be status, a title, a relationship, a certain income. Whatever it is, if it owns your peace, it owns your life. The challenge is this: detachment feels like death at first. When you start letting go of what used to define you, the ground under your feet begins to shift, and you wonder, who am I without this? But here's the twist. When you release what once ruled you, you don't become less, you become real. You're no longer a reflection of the world's approval. You become a reflection of your own conviction. And the impact is profound, because once the world no longer owns your peace, it can't control your direction. You become untouchable in the most grounded way. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not arrogant, you're awake. True freedom is not in having more, it's in needing less. And once you detach not with bitterness, but with courage, you gain what can never be taken, your power back. Until you confront yourself, life will keep confronting you. You can't outrun what lives in your heart. What you refuse to face will return, louder and sharper. There's a war most people never fight, the war within. They move through life avoiding mirrors, avoiding silence, avoiding stillness, not because they don't have time, but because they're afraid of what they might hear. We cover it up with distractions, goals, busyness, endless movement. But avoidance is not escape, it's delay. And every time we delay self-confrontation, we invite life to do it for us. You may think you've buried it, the pain, the guilt, the insecurity. But buried things don't die. They grow in the dark, and they surface when you least expect it, through broken relationships, self-sabotage, sudden collapse. Life keeps bringing you face to face with yourself, because healing doesn't happen without honesty. The challenge is confrontation hurts. It strips your illusion. It calls out your contradictions. But the twist is that pain is not punishment. It's purification. It doesn't weaken you. It wakes you. And once you've faced yourself, truly deeply, without excuse, you stop living on autopilot. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop blaming and start building. The noise fades, the mask drops, and what remains is someone whole. The man or woman who's faced their own soul doesn't walk lightly. They walk with weight, because they carry truth, and truth, once seen, changes everything. If you don't lead your mind, it will lead you to ruin. A weak mind whispers lies loud enough to sound like truth. You're not lost. You're just being led by something that doesn't know where it's going. The greatest battle you will ever fight will not be out there. It will be in here within the boundaries of your own mind. And it's deceptively quiet, because the mind doesn't need noise to destroy you. It only needs repetition. Most people don't realize how much of their life is being dictated by unexamined thought. Old programming patterns picked up from fear, rejection, trauma, or culture. You think you're thinking, but you're reacting. You think you're choosing, but you're following. You wake up every day and follow the same loops. Thoughts of not being enough, thoughts of failure before you've even tried, Thoughts that whisper, stay safe, don't risk it, don't change. That's the challenge. A mind left unled becomes a master of limitation. It won't push you forward. It will hold you back for the sake of safety, not purpose. But here's the twist. The mind isn't your enemy. It's a tool. It obeys what you train it to believe. And the moment you begin to take ownership of your thoughts, not just noticing them, but leading them, you begin to unlock a power that's been buried beneath years of noise. You don't need more motivation. You need discipline of thought. You don't need louder affirmation. You need deeper confrontation. When you lead your mind, fear loses its grip. Doubt becomes an opportunity, not a sentence. And over time, you stop being reactive and start becoming resilient. This is your responsibility, not your coaches, not your friends, not your families, yours. Lead your mind or prepare to be led by every lie it has ever learned. Nothing you chase will ever satisfy you. Until you become still, the noise you run toward is just an escape from the silence you fear. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you remember when the chasing stops. We live in a world that glorifies the chase. Chase success, chase love, chase validation, chase the next thing, and then the next. And it never ends. Because the moment you catch it, the satisfaction fades, and suddenly the void returns, louder than before. No one talks about this, about how exhausting it is to keep running, about how chasing becomes a lifestyle, not just a season, and how it slowly robs you of your peace. The challenge is that we think movement equals meaning. We think if we're not running, we're failing. But the truth is, movement without stillness is noise, loud, aimless noise. And the twist is this: stillness isn't weakness, it's power. It takes more strength to sit with yourself than to distract yourself. It takes more courage to face the quiet than to perform for the crowd. Stillness forces clarity. It removes the illusions. It reveals whether you're chasing something because it's aligned or because you're afraid to be alone without it. And when you finally stop, not because you've given up, but because you've woken up, everything changes. Your energy shifts. Your decisions sharpen, your soul rests, and what once felt urgent suddenly feels unnecessary. Stillness doesn't mean you stop building. It means you start building from peace, not panic. And in that peace, you stop needing and start living. You cannot possess what you secretly resent. Anything you envy, you push away. Anything you resent, you reject. What you curse in your heart, you cancel from your life. There's a silent war that happens inside the soul between what we desire and what we silently resent. We say we want success, but deep down, we judge those who have it. We say we want love, but part of us resents people who receive it easily. We speak well in public, but in private, we wrestle with jealousy and bitterness. And that contradiction doesn't just poison our peace, it blocks our blessing. Here's the reality. The mind cannot fully receive what the heart secretly resents, because resentment is rejection in disguise. It's like trying to pull something in while your spirit keeps pushing it away. And most people don't see it because the resentment is quiet, it doesn't scream. It hides behind little thoughts. They didn't earn it. That's not fair. Why not me? That's the challenge. You can't attract what you haven't learned to honor. You cannot step into abundance while cursing it in someone else's life. And if you do, it won't stay because your subconscious will sabotage it every time. But the twist, resentment doesn't mean you're bad. It means you're hurt. And the only way to heal that wound is to bless what you once judged. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to be free from that low vibration. You deserve to live from a place of alignment, not comparison. The shift happens when you stop viewing their blessing as your threat, when you realize there's no scarcity in truth, that their light doesn't dim yours. And when you bless what you desire in others, you make room for it in your own life. Because what you bless, you invite, and what you resent, you will never possess. When you let go of the how, the when becomes now. Your breakthrough isn't waiting on effort, it's waiting on surrender. Divine timing doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to peace. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that control doesn't create miracles. We're taught to grind, to strategize, to obsess over the details, thinking if we just figure out how, everything will fall into place. But that obsession with the how is exactly what blocks the now, because the truth is, clarity rarely comes when you force it. It comes when you release it, when you stop trying to play God with your life and finally trust the deeper order beneath the chaos. The challenge is that surrender feels like giving up, like failure, like weakness, especially when you've been trained to hustle for everything you have. But surrender isn't passivity, it's alignment. It's choosing peace over panic, vision over control. And here's the twist. The moment you release your grip on how, when you stop forcing outcomes, doubting the path, and micromanaging every detail, life starts to move. What once felt far off begins to show up, not because you chased it harder, but because you finally became ready for it. When you surrender, you align with timing, you align with flow, and in that alignment, things begin to click, faster than your effort ever could. Let go of the how, trust the process, because when your spirit is at peace, the now becomes possible. You were not sent here to live small, to obey fear, or to survive by clinging to things that don't nourish your soul. You were born with power, not the kind the world applauds, but the kind that burns quietly inside. The power to choose truth over noise, presence over pressure, surrender over control. But if you keep running from silence, if you keep bowing to resentment, gripping the how, chasing what your soul hasn't even made peace with, you'll spend your life exhausted, achieving without ever arriving. This is your wake-up call. Nothing outside you will fulfill what's broken inside you. No title, no applause, no number in a bank account will heal a mind that refuses to confront its own beliefs. And no matter how fast you run, the parts of you you avoid will always outrun you. So pause, breathe, strip it all back. Ask yourself, what am I obeying? What am I resenting? What am I chasing? Then listen, not with panic, with reverence, because the truth doesn't shout. It waits to be honored. You are not behind. You are not broken, but you are being called to go deeper, to let go, to stand clearer. And you'll know you've answered that call when you no longer need to prove, to perform, or to possess, because you've become whole right where you are. Don't just watch this and scroll on. Sit with it, let it cut, then rise. Strip off what isn't real and reclaim your life with fire. You were born to see clearly. Now live like it.